Aragorn tried to comfort her, saying, "Yet there may be a light beyond the darkness, and if so, I would have you see it and be glad." But she answered only with this linod. "Onin I Estel ledain, Uchebin Estelanim." I gave hope to the Dunedain. I have kept no hope for myself. And Aragorn went away heavy of heart. Gilraen died before the next spring. Hey everyone, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Since we are approaching Valentine's Day once more, today I want to dive into the love story of Aragorn's parents, Arathorn and Gilraen of the Dunedain. Sources for today's video are in the description and cards, my friends. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. Gilraen the Fair, whose name roughly means netted star in Sindarin, was born during the rule of the chieftain Argunui in 2907, and she was a descendant of the first chieftain of the Rangers of the North, Aranarth. While she was 5 years old, Argunui's place would be taken up by his son Eredor, as the leader of the Dunedain, while his son Arathorn II, whose name means steadfast king, learned what it took to lead and defend his people as a young man. Likely Arathorn, who was 34 years older than Gilraen, spent much of his time learning to be a ranger out in the wild, discovering more of his Dunedain heritage. All, of course, after having been raised for a time in the last homely house of Elrond, as was the tradition for the chieftains of the Dunedain. Eventually, in 2929, Arathorn would meet and fall in love with the young maiden while she was still in her early 20s, and the two would long to be together. Despite their vast age difference, Arathorn had the blood of the kings of Númenor in his veins, and had a long life to live, at least according to most signs. Gilraen's father Dirael would not consent to this marriage, and said that Arathorn would not live long, as he had a gift of foresight. Yet Gilraen's mother, Evorwen, who had also had that similar foresight, said that that was all of the more reason that they should be wed, and be married quickly, in fact, for from them would come a hope for their people, Estel and Sindarin. But if they did not marry, and Arathorn would not live a long life, there would be no such hope for their people in this age. In many ways, the foresight of Gilraen's parents here remind me of Malbeth the Seer of ancient Arnor, who prophesied something similar about the last king of Arthedain, Arvedwi, and he also foretold the coming of Aragorn to the paths of the dead with his own foresight. And so Dirael relented, and Arathorn and Gilraen were wed. The following year, Arathorn's father Eredor would meet an untimely end, as he would be slain by hill trolls in the Coldfells north of Rivendell, in or near the Etten Moors. Arathorn would then become the chieftain of the Dunedain, and in the following year, despite the doom that the men of the West had yet faced, a hope was born to them. Aragorn II would be born in 2931, and his name would mean revered king. Despite this great boon, a young heir being born to the Dunedain of the North, Arathorn would indeed meet a quick end. 2 years later, in 2933, Arathorn and the sons of Elrond, Elladan and Elrohir, who would be like brothers to Aragorn eventually at the end of the age, were hunting orcs together, and Arathorn would be slain by an orcish arrow to the eye. And so the tradition of the Dunedain continued, and though their new chieftain was only 2 years of age, they had no others they could ever place their entire hope and trust upon. Aragorn would be taken by Gilraen to Rivendell, where he would be raised in the refuge of the elves, just like so many chieftains before him. His name and true lineage would be hidden for the early years of his life, and he would be called Estel, Hope. For many years, Estel was raised away from the dangers of the world, even with his mother at his side. But eventually the truth would be revealed after Estel was 20 years of age and returned from adventure with Elrond's sons, and Elrond would bestow upon him his name and some of the relics of his lineage. After this, Aragorn would first meet with the one whom he thought was Luthien, Arwen, the daughter of Elrond. As his love for her took shape, he spoke of it to his mother, who told him that the lineage of Arwen was greater than the lineage of Aragorn, yet the young man rebutted, citing their own lineage that came from both mortals and elven kind, yet Gilraen claimed that was a different age of the world, and was so long ago. Without the grace of Lord Elrond and his blessing, the heirs of Isildur would no longer walk in the world she foresaw. and she knew Aragorn would not have his blessing in this, and so she was afraid. Aragorn said then he would walk bitterly alone in the wilderness, and Gilraen's foresight, a gift from her own parents, saw this, and she knew the truth of it, but said no more. And so the paths of Gilraen and her son were set apart, for Aragorn went abroad to many lands, learning much, and becoming the hardiest of living men. Yet Gilraen lingered on, and some years after becoming older than her husband ever was, in 2984 she eventually returned to her people, the Dunedain in the wild. Her grown son, now a man who had the respect of many people in the world, came back to her, and she remarked of her own old age. She said her time was soon approaching to leave Middle-earth, and she would not see the darkness that faced the world. Yet Aragorn reassured her, saying that there was a light beyond that darkness, that they would face, and he wished for her to be able to see it. But she responded with the quote from the beginning of the video. She gave hope to the Dunedain. She gave the world Aragorn, but kept none for herself. Aragorn would go away sadly, and she would pass away soon after, in 3007, at 100 years old. While Gilraen nor Arathorn would live to see what their son and his future wife Arwen would go on to do in Middle-earth, they knew that they had given hope to their people, the Dunedain, the men of the West, and they gave to the world a potential for a light in the darkness and a chance for the return of the king. And so we come to the end of our tale on the love story of Aragorn's parents. From this story, we see that we cannot see all ends, but we must not stop the love we bear from giving hope to the world around us. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this tale. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts on this love story? Let me know in the comments below. I quite enjoy this tale, especially its telling in the Born of Hope fan film, which I will link in the description below. If you haven't seen it yet, really check it out. It's awesome. The tale at large is such a great prelude to hope for the world that we know in The Lord of the Rings. If you'd like to get some awesome maps, shout out to my friend Rhinus Art, who still has a great deal going on for some of the best Middle-earth and Beleriand maps I've ever seen. A link for those are in the description. Please use the code MOTW24 at checkout for 20% off for the month of February. If you'd like to further support the channel, please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles, or order some White or United Cutlery, Lord of the Rings swords, statues, and other replicas from Castle Kon, who does international shipping, and please use the code WEST at checkout. And please look at our merch and Patreon as well. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons and YouTube members: Peter Shepard, Merton, John Hume, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Reese Jenkins, Arthur Merlin, Dale Davis, Kingswald Project, Theodore, Moon Viper, Andrew Carlisle, Zoomi, and Brian Hunley. Thank you so much to all of our patrons and YouTube members. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today, and I'll see you all again next week with a video on the life history of Balin, son of Fundin, the Lord of Moria. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.